Welcome everyone to a very special short Fada special. With me here, Balor. Did you come back fine from LA?
Fantastic, other than the 15-hour flight.
And what have you brought? Oh my god, 15 hours is even longer than mine. What have you brought us today on your phone that we're going to present the audience?
The day before we left, we were lucky enough to be one of the people who got to interview Jonathan. However, we did not know that we were going to be able to directly use the audio, which means we didn't do an introduction at the beginning, and we just jumped straight into the conversation when the recording started. So
right, and
this is now the intro.
Great. So everyone enjoy our short 20-minute interview with Jonathan we did on the day of our departure. And do you have time for a quick photo afterwards?
Sure, no problem.
Yeah. My first question has to be, are you not tired? Because I know how late you got here.
Oh, it's all right.
We were all here days ahead of time.
I've got a small child. I'm used to not having sleep. So
Yeah, there was this rumor that you're like embarking on the 15-hour flight just for the 6-hour session and then directly going back after the session.
you know, last time that is actually what I did. This time I came in, then slept, and then did the session, and then I had an extra day as well. Because like last time was just like ultra packed, so a little bit less crazy this time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
All right, do you want to start with your
you're pretty busy, so we'll throw through questions if you don't mind.
Go for it.
The first one, I've only got one question that's not related to console, so I'm going to get it out of the way right at the beginning, because it's sort of related. Controls on the console today, fantastic.
Great.
That was really intuitive. I play most games except PoE on a controller on my PC.
All right.
The only one I don't play is PoE, because we have to reboot the client and change.
Right.
So what I'm hoping, and what I want to know about is, will that everything we just played on controller be transferred over to PC when I plug a controller in and be just...
So currently, you do have to be in the menu to change.
Yeah.
I still want to be able to change over at runtime. I don't think in early access it will, but I'm pretty sure during early access we'll be able to make it so you can transfer dynamically while you're in game.
Yeah.
It's something that I do think is important. So
because I play every other ARPG with a controller currently, except PoE.
Right.
If I can't change between them, then...
Crafting and inventory management on the controller feels like...
Right.
Yeah.
I agree that we should support that, and so we will get to it, but it may not be for early access.
If the answer is yes, but eventually, that's fine by me too. I'm happy with that.
Right.
Will there be like free mixing and matching? Like, can you use, instead of a mouse, use a controller and a keyboard? And can you like combine the UI elements? Like, or is there only one UI?
It'll be one UI or the other. So effectively, the hybrid stuff, I'm not sure exactly how. Like, we thought about it a little bit, and I'm not quite sure how it would work.
So my favorite way, and the way I was hoping it would work, because you've already designed two UIs, one for console, one for computer.
Right.
And I'm hoping that there's just an option to pick between the two, no matter what you are.
We've discussed that, but the console UI doesn't have any kind of mouse support in it right now. I'm still sort of open to this idea. Like, I'm willing. I actually have talked to Trev a little bit about it, and I'm interested. But I'm not going to promise anything around that because it is something to potentially do. But there actually have been some people who have said that they prefer the co-op user interface more than the PC one.
Like, it was really nice. Like, if I could have put that into my PC and just play with everything in that corner the way it was while we were in co-op, I would have taken that.
Having the HUD would probably be relatively easy. In fact, there is. So funny thing is, there is actually going to be an option for when you're on a controller to use the co-op version of all the UIs, even when you're not playing co-op.
Yeah. I would use all the time. That looked great.
So then the question is whether or not we want to go further than that and like do some of that stuff on the PC side as well. But we'll see. It is one of the things at the moment that we're doing is we're having to create 3 versions of every UI. Yeah. Because we've got the co-op version, the regular console version, and the PC version. So it's certainly a thing.
Yeah. That's fair. Alright, that was the only non-console thing that I had anyway.
Let's certainly follow with, go through with the next. With what we've played, there's a lot of emphasis on player mechanics and reactive gameplay in Path of Exile. There's a clear shift that we perceive.
Right.
Do we expect to be able to outgear and outlevel the content during leveling and in endgame, respectively, like we know from PoE 1 and other action role-playing games?
So I think that will be able to happen certainly in endgame. But what I want to avoid is the situation where right at the start of a league, you are getting to the point where like the first time you encounter a boss, you're killing it in 2 seconds, like very easily. Like, I don't want that to be the experience you're having right at the start. Like you want to feel that like the game is threatening, and then you feel more and more powerful over time. So I don't want you just to feel like a god after like a couple of hours. It needs to be that you feel like there's still that power progression. I mean, look, it's always possible to outgear something because if you get lucky with mods, like we are a game that has a very large amount of variance depending on what you can find and so on. So if you know what you're doing, you're always going to be doing a lot better. But at the same time, I don't want it to quite be the case that you kill a boss in 2 seconds, like just right off the bat. Like there should be something that you're earning later on.
So we're still okay with the idea that like the very, very knowledgeable players in the end game might be able to make things that blow up screens and kill bosses.
You will get to the point where you can absolutely destroy shit eventually, but it shouldn't feel like that on day one. At the moment in PoE 1, I would say it's gotten to the point where like you're just like absolutely blasting through content like nobody's business.
It is the winning strategy.
So
because
fast.
it's easier to do than reactive gameplay.
Right. So the reactive gameplay really should be the case for quite a while. You know what I mean? And I mean a lot of this came from this thing of like, okay, in PoE all you do is you just hold one button. And you know what I mean? Like I want to get away from that. Sure, you can get to the point where that will happen, but there should be a way. You shouldn't be like that right from the start. That's something you have to earn.
Yeah, that's good. That makes me feel good because one button playstyle is always my favorite. It's always I am that blaster.
Right.
But I always get bored if I start that way.
Right.
I'm okay with there being 17 buttons for me to press and manual flasks and everything off the bat when I can build towards an ultimate power of just I've been doing this for a week and a half now.
We still have all these automation options. Like, we've got all the stuff with I showed a little bit with the Druid demo, a few things there, but we've got all that stuff that can happen. It's just that you're going to need to be able to get to the point where your character is powerful enough to be able to do that for everything. Would take quite a bit of, quite a lot. So
that still makes me happy that is a place I can get
stuff
to.
at the very top of the end game where you'll never get there, right? Even with a fully decked out character, that will still be a challenge.
It could be, but I mean, we'll have to say. Look, I can't honestly say anything about exactly what the balance is like at Endgame because we don't yet have enough to really be able to playtest that yet. I mean, one of the things that is that does surprise people sometimes is the fact that like okay, nobody wants to really play through the game legitimately when you've got like a half completed act. And so like we can make characters that have the stats we think they'll have, but you can't really know until you really get the game finished to that point because you make balance changes that affect in-game all the time at lower levels, and you kind of have to work out what the repercussions are when you get there, because there's this thing where as you go through the game, you have to feel like you're always getting stronger. And so you can predict what that might be in like an in-game now, but you'll be wrong because you'll still have to make changes through the game. So even the stuff that you're doing to like make Act 2 feel good is going to ripple through towards the end game. So it's really hard to know exactly what we'll get until we get there.
Yeah.
Does that mean we directly want to segue to the end game question?
That's a good lead into the end game thing. So, we've had a lot of footage and a lot of playtime on early PoE 2, which has been great. A lot of it looked great. I actually think the pacing, now that I've actually played it, feels pretty similar, if not even a little faster than what it feels like to play PoE 1 if you're new.
Especially
not
in
for
terms
us.
of what's going on the screen when you do the co-op. There's so much happening at the same time.
Like, not for us, because we're experienced, but watching a new player play PoE 1, they move just as slow as we were in PoE 2. Like, it's not that big of a difference, but a lot of people have been concerned about, like, we don't see any endgame footage.
Yes. And as I said, the reason is because of what I said. Okay, we've talked multiple times about showing in-game stuff, but the thing that we always came back to is what we show is going to be a guess. And the reason it's a guess is because, we've got all these curves. We believe these curves will work, right, in terms of player powers. We've got all these models and so on. And we can make a character that conforms to that, but we still don't really know until we can playtest through the campaign all the way to the end, because you have to have that thing where you always feel like you're getting power. So for that reason, it's like, we'll see what we end up with.
Because like you could make a character level 90 and easily, make a blasting map thing.
Absolutely.
But then you're like, if I haven't finished the rest of the campaign, then you've no idea if that's going to be real or not.
Exactly. So effectively, we've talked a few, because this has been on players' minds, right? Like it's absolutely been a thing. And so my first instinct was like, well, we need to respond to this by showing them what PoE 2 will be like at endgame, so they understand that you can still.
That was my first
game,
thought too.
But at the same time, as I said, I don't want to show something where we're not 100% certain that is really what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And Mark was the one who really talked me off the ledge there, because I was pretty convinced we needed to do that. But he's like, no, just don't do it. Like we'll see what we get when we get there. We just don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so you answered kind of the question that we were leading into here, but what is the state of the end game that you want to accomplish before you feel ready to demonstrate it prior to early access?
Well, as I said, really, it's just getting through the campaign, and I think we don't need 6 acts ready to be able to do that. I think 5 is enough. But you'd have to have enough of the campaign to kind of get the feeling of like you can enter Endgame and that you get
similar to like getting to maps after Dominus.
Exactly. So I think once we've got that, then we'll be fine, and then we'll probably show Endgame at that point. We're not too far away from this. We're getting there. Shouldn't be too far away.
Like I know we for sure here like we only get like a limited amount of content. We have like Act 1 and Act 2.
Mm-hmm.
But playing through that here, just the stuff we got to touch, that feels ready for a big beta. Like that thousands of people could have played those 2 acts, and most of it would have been good.
I would be very worried because
because you're obviously showing us the stuff that's most finished.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we're working on Act 3 at the moment, so
right. Like that stuff feels ready. You could. Tens of thousands of people could have played that today and it would be fine.
But the funny thing about that is that when we did it the first time, when we did the first playtest, it definitely wasn't ready. And we thought it was, but it wasn't.
Oh.
Effectively, we learned from that what needed to then change more to get to the point where it's like that first playtest, people had way worse time than they had on this one. There were a lot of changes that had to happen. So, things that's important. So we're actually going to be running some internal friends and family alphas in the next little while where they'll have access to more. And we sort of need to get that testing from a large number of people. It's surprising the extent to which a bunch of developers can play and still not find a lot of the issues. And the actual part of the reason for that, I think, and I've actually started to fix this for myself recently as well, is that when I'm playing and I'm having fun, my natural instinct is to pick stuff that I enjoy and have the most fun with. And what happens is you end up with choices that don't get picked because they're not as fun, and those choices end up being bad. And then when people actually pick those legitimately, they then don't have a good time with them. And so what I have, in the first demo, if you picked the same stuff that I would have picked, you would have had a great time. It's just that there was other stuff that people picked that wasn't that stuff, and they didn't have as good a time. So
there's other options that just isn't even your play
style. I'm intentionally now, every time I play the game, I always pick the last thing I would pick. I look at it and I'm like, what would I pick? I'm going to do the opposite of that. And that way I can always make sure that the worst thing as it was is also going to be okay. So that's kind of an important mindset shift that I've had to have when playtesting, is I'm not here to have fun, actually. What I'm here to do is to make sure that everything is good. And I can't do that if I just pick what I find fun. I need
that
to
would be a struggle when it comes to playing. Be like, oh, I want to pick, no, that's the fun one.
Yep.
Go over here. This is the one that I would never pick. That. Okay.
Yeah. So that will ultimately make the game better for everyone. But it's certainly
You never do that. I played with Energy Blade, War Chief, Inquisitor totems once through the campaign. It was surprisingly good.
Right.
And never.
All right. Do you want to go for that one?
Oh, I forget what all of them.
All right. Okay, so PoE 2 being designed for 2 consoles and computer at the same time, with crossplay and cross-progression shared between all platforms and all future leagues launching at the very same time. Has there been any mechanics, ideas that you would have wanted to do that have been limited by the capabilities of one of those platforms?
So the funny thing about this, so I used to have the mindset of thinking, and this actually came up when we were doing WASD versus mouse and keyboard. Yep. I used to have the mindset of we have to make sure that there's always the same that the control schemes are balanced with regard to each other. And I realized at some point that this idea was holding us back, that it's much better to just try out things even if we think it might be worse in one control scheme and just give it a shot and see what happens.
Yep.
And what we found is that even when we did that, the problems weren't as bad as we had expected. So basically letting the idea of one platform, I am not going to let the fact that we've got a controller change what things we might want to do with something. It's better to just try it, see what happens, and then see what we get. And that strategy has worked out really well because, once again, we never would have done moving while shooting if we if we'd had the old mindset, because the theory was that moving while shooting won't work from us click to move. But yet then when we actually tried it, it was actually just fine, and the experience that we got from it was so much better that it was absolutely worthwhile.
Yeah.
So basically I'm saying no. There's nothing that I would let hold us back. If something's going to not work on controller, we'll just do it anyway, and we'll find a way. It just has to be.
So it just ends up being something like right now, lightning warp, for instance, with a controller. Not going to be great because it's going to target the closest mob, and if that ends up being the case, you just go,
Right. Did you try lightning warp?
Another option? No, not here. But
okay, interesting. Because do you know how it works now?
No.
Okay, so lightning. Wait, is this? Whatever, I'll just tell you. It's fine. So lightning warp in PoE 2 is actually a culling skill. It's tally frags other monsters. So when they get low on life, you get an indicator, and then you use it, and you go, and they splat, and they do a big explosion.
Okay,
that's what lightning warp is in
like
PoE.
a culling strike body.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's pretty fun.
That'd be great.
And the stronger the monster is, the bigger the boom.
Yeah.
So it's fun. Anyway, so just as a random thing, that does work pretty well on controller, because what you want to use it for is an offensive ability rather than a teleport one.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just quickly, slightly related to that, melee attacking while moving. I felt yesterday with the monk, standing still every time I take a swing, felt extremely bad because I'm at a double disadvantage as melee. I have to stand next to the monster to swing, and I have to stand still to swing, while Balor, as a ranged character, both with Witch and Ranger, was able to fire and use skills completely while moving around, back, forward, sideways.
So the intention here effectively is that what it's like, my feeling on this is that the step attack is kind of the thing that means that you still get to move a lot while doing stuff. There's also lots of other attacks that that still give you control, like the whirling assault and so on. But that being said, there still have been some people talking about, should we try and get more motion into the melee attacks? The problem is that if you do that, they start to feel a lot less powerful. There's this real floaty feeling you get if you're just moving while swinging a weapon. It doesn't quite feel the same. So you need to, on some level, have some amount of lock-in.
Yeah, it does need to slow down, similar to how, like, when you're holding the bow like that. But I feel like it's almost unnatural that when I'm walking up to a monster and I want to hit it, that I don't take the walk of the swing into the
So there is the step attack part that's, once again, that's supposed to solve that. If you're not feeling like it does, then I guess we just need to work on it more. I personally was of the opinion that Monk is okay in this regard. It feels very staccato, which is kind of what we're going for. Okay. It's supposed to be like chop, 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 like it's kind of got like that. The one that's more like the one that people have had that particular complaint more on has been more the warrior.
Okay.
And for that one, I think where we did do very well is things like rolling slam, where you feel like you've got control the whole time, you get like the big attack. So that one's working really well. But the sort of the default attack on the warrior has got that problem, I think, more where like it's a bit slower. It feels like you're getting too locked in. So I still think there's more we can potentially try. Yeah. I am open to, as I said, I was actually talking with one of my developers this morning about this, about potentially trying out some ways to do that. But it's certainly something that I've seen talked about, and I want to try and improve it. If people are still not happy with that, then I want to still try and improve it.
I think from what I saw, it was mostly the ability to like strafe a little bit.
Right.
That was more of the issue, because it felt fantastic when I was playing both the Ranger and the Witch.
Right.
Like you would slow down a lot, and you'd be like, "Oh, I know I'm holding, I know I'm attacking," but like I could still move just a little bit.
Right.
Side, and it was more the sideways stuff.
Right.
Because you never really had problems approaching or coming in and out, stopping to attack. It was more like, I just need to move this far while I'm attacking. I need to end my...
The thing that step attack doesn't have is the ability to control the direction.
Yeah.
And so I guess that would be the thing to give it a shot. But as I said, I'm willing to give it a try. I actually talked to one of the designers this morning, as I said, about giving that a shot. But as I'm a little bit skeptical, because I worry that will make it feel too floaty, but we'll see.
Right, I mean...
From the range, though, that felt amazing.
Oh, yeah, from range, absolutely.
I don't think any other ARPG is doing things like that. I don't remember playing that felt that smooth.
Right. Quite possibly.
Like from range before.
Right. Quite possibly.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I imagine Rory has a lot of say in that as well. And but we were curious about your opinion. Do you have any burning questions that you want to ask before we have our fillers?
I have one more thing that isn't really a question. There's like a few little growing pains left with controls and whatnot, but it's overall, I've been saying for probably about 9 years, the thing Diablo's done better than everyone else is their fluidity of combat. Feels better than any ARPG in the game.
Right.
That might win.
Right.
That PoE 2 might overtake that.
That's my hope.
And that might be the first time that's ever happened, because that's the thing they've won at. It's the one thing Diablo's had is they've done really good cinematics and really good like fluidity of combat with their controls.
Right.
They lose on everything else, but those two things they did really well. And then this is the first time I've played another ARPG right here and been like, that's fluid like a Blizzard game would be expected to be.
That really was that really was my goal, because what I was sick of seeing. So every time we do a PoE announcement, what I would always see outside our community. So in our community, everyone's just talking about the content. Outside of my community, the first comment on Reddit would always be, oh, I tried that game and I didn't really like how the combat felt. And I'm like, I don't want this to be the thing that everyone says anymore outside of our community whenever we're releasing something. And so that's one of the major motivations behind, working on PoE 2. So yeah, if we can actually achieve that, and that'll be
that is the feeling I got, because that's one of the things I have to school people on when they're coming over to PoE 1. I'm like, yeah, look, until right at the end game when you've got really good stuff, sometimes combat doesn't feel great, but the rest of the game makes up for it.
Right.
And then I'm playing PoE 2, I'm like, this is the smoothest thing. Like, this is it. I want to keep playing this. Good. I'd like this, please.
Good.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I'm curious. We have some other filler questions prepared, but what I came up with right now is I'm really curious with this playtest here. Is it what you hoped it would be, and do you have some insights that you would like to share that you learned in these past 2 days, or yesterday specifically?
So, from the last playtest, just to talk about that, there was a lot of problems that we had where we were feeling relatively confident in that playtest. And then when we actually did it, there were so many problems that people ran into that made me feel very uncomfortable. So coming into this playtest, I was very not confident. I'm so worried that we're going to not have fixed all the problems that people were worried about. I remember you've got Talkative Try, who's the most positive person in the universe, and he had a really bad time last time, and I was like, I feel so bad about that, all these things like that. I was ultra worried that we wouldn't have fixed all the problems, and so the thing I was just happy with is the fact that people actually did feel the changes we made. I was worried that we didn't go far enough to actually fix all that. That I'm just so super relieved that we got to that point. The stuff that's probably still a problem, so I guess that melee thing has come up a couple of times. That's still something I think we need to look at. But overall, I was just there's just a sense of relief that we actually managed to address the issue that the concerns people had. People weren't able to go back to town all the time for the flasks. People didn't have itemization problems nearly as much as they had last time. We managed to get all that stuff, and that's very important because sometimes if we went into early access and it would be so easy to just torpedo the whole game over things that would be trivial to change. But it's all and when I say trivial to change, what I mean is all that stuff that was a big issue, it's just a few numbers, right? It's just a few things. All the hard work is there's so much hard work that goes in, you have to get right? But then there's a few trivial things can just absolutely nuke your product, right? And so you've even seen I feel really bad about what happened with No Rest for the Wicked, because when they went into early access, they had some the balance of durability was just ultra harsh, and it caused so many negative reviews right at the start.
So many people quit in an hour or two.
Exactly, right? And I feel that's so unfair that happened. Obviously, at the end, it isn't unfair, right? It's a mistake that they made, but at the same time, it feels so bad. It's they put all this effort in, and then to be torpedoed by a few numbers,
which was patched 2 days
exactly,
in,
which
but
was
the damage is done.
Exactly, right? And that is I have a real fear of that, because it would be so easy for that to happen. So we really have to make sure that we don't run into that same problem where we just if we had launched with the flask system the way it was in the first playtest, then that absolutely would have been exactly what would have happened. Everyone would be complaining about it, and they'd be right to. And that's an example of something that
Flasks did feel a lot better here than Exarchon.
Exactly, they should.
We still had some mana problems, but
but it should
comparatively it was a lot better.
And so something like that is getting that exactly right. It's it's hard in some ways, but it's also easy in others, right? Because it's just a number. Just. That's the main thing.
I think we're getting the nod of get out of here.
No, it's the nod of you guys are good.
All right. What are some of the goals for the social systems or features? Will there be support to be in more than one guild at once? That's highly requested.
Not something exactly on my radar. I can't say that it's a thing that is. I don't really have a problem with that. But kind of not really our focus right now.
Okay, that's just beyond the scope right now. That's something that.
I had one last really small question that I got asked a bunch, which is if we're going to combine all of the leagues in PoE 2 when it comes through, we're also getting all of our MTX and Snatch tabs that we already own from PoE 1 moving into PoE 2. What happens if you own accounts on both a console right now and a PC right now?
So we aren't technically talking about exactly everything. And the reason why we can't for this particular topic is that there's so much platform holder crap, right? However, what I will say is we will attempt to be as player friendly as we are allowed to be by the platform holders. So what that would be basically is if I can have my way, everyone will get everything from both their accounts, and they'll be able to use it across any platform that they can, and so on. And that's what I want to go for. To the extent that we can't do that, it's because we're unable to negotiate with platform holders to make that happen.
So if something is not getting merged in, don't be angry at GGG
Sure,
for it. They
basically.
want everything
That's
merged
what
together.
I want to do. I have no
And-
reason to deny you from having
Yeah.
that stuff. It's just entirely about can we get it to be okay. But yeah, the intention would be merge everything.
Yep,
have
fair
it
enough.
shared. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Lovely.
Right. Excellent. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, but like, what do we do for an outro here?
Well, I can just add this conversation that we're having right now.